Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Living Your Juiciest Life Ever. I am so honored and grateful for my first amazing guest. And this is episode 2, season 1 of Living Your Juiciest Life Ever. And my goal is to bring you someone that is living through their juicy in their life, that has come from another space and taken that leap to living heart first, voice first, claiming joy, living in a space of inspiration from a full cup. And my guest today, her name is Rizal Furtado. She worked in the insurance industry for 25 years, knowing at the very beginning of that journey that she wanted something else. So welcome, Rizal, to Living Your Juiciest Life Ever.
Thank you, Kate. And indeed I am.
And we will be beginning again. We had a few technical difficulties this morning, so we're having a little fun. Oh, okay. So now that we've got everything sorted out, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your past and the jump that you made? Because that was a big deal. 25 years working for an insurance company and then taking the leap.
Yes. At 20, I sat at my desk at an insurance company, looked outside the window, and I would wonder about the people who were driving around in Canada, the Highway 427. Like, what kind of lives did they live? How were they having this flexibility in their life? And here I was sitting at a desk. And I knew back then that I did not want to be sitting at the desk doing what I was doing all the days of my life. So I had changed multiple companies, and let's fast forward to 25 years later. I had a performance review that was the worst one in my career when I normally excelled at them. And this one was the catalyst to make me look at myself, where I was in my life. And it really made me wonder, am I in the right place? Am I really in the right place? So that same year, it was 2015 that I had that review. And that year, I went on a cruise with a bunch of Hay House authors. And one of the things that I had learned, because they were giving lectures, when we were on sea, was it is time for me to really go out and discover who I am. I cannot sit at my desk and ever know that. So I took Anita Morjani on what she said, that life is like a tapestry. You can only see the back of the tapestry. God sees the front, and your thread can go from here to there, right? And he will always paint your picture beautifully. You'll see it on the front one day, but he will have your back. So when I returned, because of my unhappiness in where I was, I handed in my resignation on that first day of the return from the cruise. And I really said I quit with no plan in place. So the next segment is, how did I get from the I quit to where I am today? I had to go through the bumps and the bruises that Steve Harvey mentions in his Jump video. And the other thing that's actually kind of like an oxymoron of my life, in the insurance industry, I was an underwriter. An underwriter is someone who assesses the risk on your life. So they're assessing risks all day long, but I don't know how many actually know how to really take a risk. Mm-hmm. And that's what the next part of my life would teach me. How do I actually take a risk on myself and my life and in my businesses, and do bigger and greater things? So Steve Harvey his video on Jump explains it so well that you will see the bumps and the bruises in the beginning, but eventually, if you keep doing what you're doing and stay in faith and trust God, your parachute will open. And of course, we've gone from owning a building, so we rent what we own and we rent out where we live. So that's one of the things that I had learned outside of being an employee, to create wealth in wealth management, have assets, and you don't have to own a property. Along that way as well, I did live in, I did buy a house that was finally ready because I had purchased it before I had said I quit. I lived in that for a period of time too, but last year we sold it, and we sold all of our possessions. We only left a few boxes, in storage, but we're living out of 4 suitcases, and we have gone from Canada to Portugal to launch EXP in Portugal. Again, all of this is just, big leaps of faith. We feel that God, guides us. We do not know what God has next in store for us. And even as we travel around Portugal, he directs us as to where he wants us to be next. And we found safety and comfort everywhere that we have been.
Amazing. Amazing what that faith and movement going forward and taking the risk. There's a line that I heard once that I often think of is God can't direct a parked boat.
Exactly. It's like playing baseball or any game, right? All of the players are lined up and they're ready to play their game of life.
Mhm.
But if no one makes a move, there is no game and there is no risk.
That's very true. So you
Mhm.
mentioned Steve Harvey's jump video. That's had a really big impact in your life by the sounds of it over the
Oh,
last
totally.
5 years.
Oh, yes. I go back to it, like I said, at least 4 times a year to remind me of where I am in that video. Because I have been through the initial jump of feeling the bruises, and, being battered. And, I would say in maybe the last 8 months, I've felt as if things have been smoother and that the parachute is opening or it has opened. And and then I will, of course, listen to it again, maybe next month and then see, okay, now what does the video say? Because it is so true.
Well, I'm going to go and watch the video because I know you sent it, but I didn't actually take the time to watch that video. So I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, it is my go-to.
And then I'm going to go there and go, yeah, I have seen that. Oh, that's too funny. So Roselle, you mentioned getting into personal development, and that was about 5 years ago when all that journey started.
Yes.
And that this is an ongoing journey for you. You've got some new things happening now that you've been working on this year. I remember that. So, and you mentioned just the preparation piece. And then has that been key in actually helping you to develop your faith as well and your belief?
Totally, because unless I could see myself in certain ways, not in the way that I would ordinarily see myself, I could not move forward. And I needed help with that. Like, sometimes, yes, I read the Bible, that is true. I read it morning and evening. But sometimes we need help to discover more of who we are, to be able to do greater things. And like any kind of personal development, like that is something I have now put into my yearly goals that I must do at least 3 or 4 things in personal development each year. That's how much I believe in it, because I'm growing and changing, and I can't be the same person last year to be a different person this year. Somebody who perhaps looks at things differently, takes different risks, maybe even bigger risks, right? It's a learned process.
Amazing. And then you mentioned also trusting God and all the emotions that you felt. So what were some of the emotions that you felt after you quit? What did you go through?
Oh my gosh. I went through, I can't believe I am where I am, but not in a good way. In the beginning, because you're coming from like not, right? You see your money, dwindling in the bank account because I wasn't really doing anything. I was so burnt out that I slept for the first 3 months after I quit. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody, has gone through that journey and they wondered what in the world was that exhaustion about, it is from working the long hours, and the stress, and my body really needed to recover. So that was absolutely one of the biggest things that I can, offer support. And I understand I encounter people who run into that.
And so after you quit, was there, so you slept for 3 months, some of the emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
What did you experience there?
Fear, of course, shows up, it shows up, with its ugly head because, no plan in place, but God always provides something. So, and then just about the time when my money was up, but the cash in hand, I should say, was about to dwindle, a piece came in for me to make my first investment. And I did that. So I had fear. I did have anger at God. I also want to put that out there. But, but the anger should have been more directed to myself. But sometimes I felt angry because things weren't going my way. But God, in his wisdom, won't allow things to go my way because he has a different plan. And his plan for what he has for me, it's always been totally different from what I can imagine or expect. So now I've learned, don't be angry at him. I ask him to put up the roadblocks now. Like if I'm going into something that is not in line with his will, block me, stop me, like put everything to a screeching halt. So I have that trust. Trust became part of the journey, and I learned to have faith. Many times I had to pray for things to either happen or to come in, because we were in situations where the decisions that we made and the risks we took could have really made us, or it could have just broken us apart. But God always came in, and we learned to recognize when God's hand was moving, and to just be still. Don't do anything, don't say anything, make no phone calls. He's doing something. Just wait.
Amazing. So can you give an example of one thing that you can share that you had to be still and wait?
Like sometimes as an investor, mortgages is a word that you always hear from, a real estate investor, which is what I am. And there were times when mortgages were just not working out. I was declined once, and I was horrified by it. But then I thought, because I have this journey with God, something better has to come up. So that was a mortgage from what we call in investments a B lender, like a credit union. They declined me. And I just knew, Kate, I just knew in my spirit that God had something better. One of the deepest desires that I had at that time in my life was I wanted to be approved by a bank. So an A lender, a step ahead. And when that declination came and I had the faith, I turned around. I just happened to walk into my bank. The next thing I know, they're asking me for my business. And I'm laughing at them and saying, you have no idea what's going on with me right now. And you guys, because I'm self-employed, once I say that word, you guys run from me. You won't offer me anything, But they sat with me. They asked me to book a meeting with them. They sat with me and they helped me to put my, package together. I told them what happened and they said, no, give us a try. And you know what? I think in a matter of, it was less than 2 weeks, I was approved.
That's amazing.
It is, because you go from the client thinking this is the end of the world and I desperately need this mortgage, to having the faith of, what? No, God is up to something.
And that's so key, isn't it? Having that spiritual backing and that spiritual faith. And when you move into the place of knowing, then there is no stress.
Exactly.
When we're not in a place of believing or faith, that we are in a place of stress.
Yes.
When we step into the believing, the stress begins to come down. Even if it's been a long time, it may take time for it to reduce, but the recognition of the knowingness kind of turns things into magic, doesn't it? Because I mean, the bank asking you that, and when you walked in and going, we want your business.
And I'm laughing, and I'm laughing, saying, you guys usually run from me. What was interesting, what the outcome of that was? I would go back to that particular branch, and they told me they were always curious about me. How do I do what I do? So I would speak to them and educate them. Yeah, this is how it's done. And they were like, wow, even the bank manager, like, I'm watching you, I'm like, wow, really?
They're bored, aren't they?
Not enough work at the bank, right? You know how it is.
That's why I said it, really. Anyway. Oh my goodness. So that's that whole trusting thing, trusting God and all of those emotions. And so the blessings that followed, especially the 5th anniversary of the day that you quit the corporate world. Where were you and what was so special about that day?
I couldn't, when I caught hold of it was that day and I saw where I was, I could not believe my eyes. Like, if God had told me, just relax, girl, I have your back. 5 years later, I'll show you where I'm taking you. I was in my favorite spot in the world. I was on the beach and I was not working on anything. It was like a total day off. And I was like, wait a minute, this is the date, 5 years later. I'm at the beach. I can't believe this.
What beach were you on?
I'm in Portugal. It was a beach. It was just south of Lisbon. with the Atlantic. It was fall and if you go to my website, www.rizelfurtado.com, there's a picture of me taking one big leap. I'm in my coat because it's a little bit cool.
I saw that picture.
One big, yeah, that's that day. And I took that leap for that particular picture to just come up to remind me of the joy that I had on that day when I realized, my God, look where you have me 5 years later after I quit to the day. Like, what a journey.
Amazing. That's so great. Yeah. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about how you felt during the time when you were giving too much to others and neglecting yourself in the process?
Oh my gosh. That's so easy to do, I think, for a lot of people. But what I'm learning, one of the other things, I'm in a mastermind called Success Intelligence with the author Robert Holden. And he has been reminding us, I wouldn't say necessarily teaching us, he's mentoring us in a wonderful way to stop and just slow down. Because when you're giving too much, you can't give what you don't have, right? That's the first thing.
And people live on that, in that empty cup
And
space.
people live on that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us entered that mastermind tired. We're all, financially successful, but we entered very tired. Our pace was way too fast, so we had to slow down. In that state, I sometimes feel ugly. I feel angry at myself for like giving too much and wearing myself down, frustrated. I could feel hurt because sometimes you're giving and it's not that I necessarily want to receive, but I don't see the appreciation in my giving. That's, I think, applicable to everyone. I could be tearful. And it's as if you need like a boost of iron or something. You're just dragging. You're just uninspired, not motivated. Like a dragging dog. You're trying to pull this dog that's pulling against you. Like that, you just don't want to do things. You don't want to go into that direction, and that can lead some people into depression or anxiety.
Absolutely.
Right? If you don't recognize it and don't stop and know how to say no and deal with it.
And it's so when was the defining moment when you realized that we've gone from the recognition of giving too much and being exhausted and burned out, and so was there a defining moment when you realized that something was missing? What did it feel like when you had the aha and then made the shift?
Oh my God, the aha was what was really missing was me. Like, I can't explain that in the depth that I feel it, but I just turned around one day and I looked in the mirror, because I was actually challenged to look in the mirror as part of the mastermind, to look at myself and love myself. And it was tough for me that first day to stare at myself in the mirror and just be with myself. And then I realized, oh heck, I'm like a blur in my own life. Like I went to Formula One, and those cars, they go so fast that they could be a blur. So living life in the fast lane, you're a blur to yourself and probably to a lot of people. But the moment I stop to face myself, it's like, my gosh, I can't believe this is what I am, who I am, and here I am. So that actually made me really stop and slow down. I put myself on vacation. I just told Ernest, to save my life, I have to stop right now. Like, I'm taking like a good, it was over a week. I said, I'm just going to rest and do whatever it is I need to do. But I cannot go on like this. I can't keep doing, and not taking time for myself to nourish myself. Man, and Kate, you know what I realized in that stillness, that rest that I took? I forgot a lot about me. I forgot a lot about the things that I love in life. And I'm like going back to the age of 4. I took my memory back to what was I like as a 4-year-old, when I went through different ages and stages of my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I haven't done those things in forever. It was shocking and it shamed me, but it also helped me to go back and embrace some of those things and even reconnect with people who I have not connected with in a long, long time and have probably missed me.
Amazing. That's amazing. Ooh, and I know you've had a bunch of these.
Oh yeah.
The next question, the next question. I know you've had a bunch of these, and this is such a beautiful place to segue because, when we're in that dark place and we have a breakthrough, the breakdown is sometimes it's so hard to see that there's light on the other side. But then when there is, it's like this, somebody just put the oxygen mask on, right?
Yes.
So if you want, can you share a story of a breakthrough? You mentioned something in 2020 in preparation where you had a big breakthrough and it affected your life thereafter.
Oh, well, it is joining the Success Intelligence Mastermind. Somehow, I was living 2020 so much in the fast lane to prepare for this trip to come here that I just felt like I could not enter 2021 in the state of mind that I was in. Like I would crash if I entered 2021 at that pace and ended it the same way. And God sends a dewdrop in my email. And I saw this email from, Robert Holden to join this, about maybe 10 to 16 other people in this mastermind called Success Intelligence, which is really to help us define what success is in our lives. And the funniest thing is the one thing we agreed on was success was not money. We were very clear about that, this group. It had to be something else. Mm-hmm. So this journey that I've been on, I'm still in the mastermind since January to now, it has just totally radically shifted the way I look at life. It's helped me to be more at peace with myself. I find I'm less reactive and I'm more inquisitive, right? Because, things could come up and normally you go like, wow, you want to, run and hide sometimes. But now I'm learning just to stop and don't react, but be very inquisitive about what's before me. And the people in the mastermind, my God, I love them. But just doing this one thing that he challenged us to do is the success journal. That has radically changed my life. Every night I sit down with, right now, it's probably about 16 questions. I've taken a question from every class and some questions from the pieces of homework that he gave us. These are questions that really resonated with me. So it's like sitting in the night and just doing this inquiry on myself. And it's all about all these different aspects of success.
Wow.
So it makes me think about it. Like I shared with someone recently, I said, why are you writing this journal on your life that's just about all the things that are going on and it's so depressing? And I shared, I'm writing a success journal. Like my outlook on life has changed. So now I'm thinking, I'm actually patting myself on the back for doing that and seeing things differently. It's the same old questions, and I'm amazed that every single day I have a different answer for it. Each day is different. Each day brings new opportunity.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you do this at night?
At night.
And what would you say would be the top 3 questions that you could share to help listeners maybe start something like that on their own?
The number one question is always, what is success today? What is success today? What is success for you today? And I would actually challenge people to put aside your money and put aside your career and answer that question without those 2 categories in the beginning.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah.
Right. And then really think about what is success today. Mm-hmm. The other one is, how can I be more authentic? Every day, how can I be more authentic? Right? How can I really be more me? Because that's helped me greatly.
Okay. So that share one thing. I know there's so many, but share one thing that really stands out that when you asked that question, it made you laugh.
Giggle more, because Kate, I was not laughing in the beginning. Like I was so tired and burnt out. There was like joy is a beingness. I've learned that, right? And that's part of being on this mastermind. Mm-hmm. I now know joy is a beingness I can choose every day. Mm-hmm. But just even, one way I can be more authentic is to giggle more, and laugh more, I don't know. One way I can be authentic is to speak the truth, right? Be honest, be forgiving, Like whatever those things are, for you. Every day they're different for me.
That's very
But
cool.
I love when I remember choosing giggle, and because it seems like a little childish thing to choose, but I remember when I chose it, laughter started to enter my life in an even greater way. Like I hadn't heard myself belly laugh out loud in public in a long time. It's daily.
Wonderful. Yeah, they say that it lessens for people. Like we laugh this many, I don't know, I can't remember what the numbers are, but it's this many numbers at like when you're a child, and then when adults only laugh this much, it's like, that's just wrong.
That
We
is
need
wrong.
to be living in joy. What's the point of being here if we're not going to get there?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. That wasn't the intention when we were created. So what was the third question that you would put on that list?
So the third question that I would put on the list is, who can I forgive?
That's so huge.
Who
There's
can I
so much
forgive
freedom
today?
there. Yeah.
Oh, that forgiveness is freedom. And that is exactly the equation around forgiveness. And forgiveness could be for me, but I'm finding there are so many people still that I need to forgive.
And how do you discern that you haven't forgiven them?
It comes up.
It does, eh?
Their name
You
comes
just
up,
ask
or
the
a
question
memory.
and a name comes up, and then you spend some time thinking about it.
Yep. Or a memory of an event. And then I would look at it and it's like, okay, who needs the forgiveness here? Do I need it? Or does that person need it? Sometimes it's both.
It's very good to discern that point too, that the do I need it, or does the other person need it, or do we both need that forgiveness?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Those are three very powerful questions. So what is success for you today? Take out the equation of career and money so that you don't focus on that, because we've been conditioned to think that success has money or prosperity, in the financial part of it. And I think that the more we focus on I actually made a note. The more we focus on money, the more we lead ourselves away from our heart.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful that you use the word heart, because there's this one slide that Robert Holden shares with us, and it sticks in my mind. If your definition of success does not include the word love, find another definition.
Oh, this is gold. This is such gold. Oh, now I'm super excited. What do you see in the next level of juicy for you? What's next? Where are you headed to? This is like,
oh my gosh,
we're doing jumping with wings now, right?
We are totally jumping with wings. Well, I had written, because when I looked at or inquired into that, I had written already what I would like my life to look like in like about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I wrote this down in 5 years, in 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. So I have an idea. So I'm actually a bit ahead of that plan. I didn't think that I would be where I am right now. This was part of my 10-year plan. And I've not yet completed 10 years. So I would say, like, in 1 year, I don't know where I'll be. I have no desire to own a house. I quite enjoy living out of these suitcases. But I know I will be somewhere different. It could be Portugal. Business may bring me back here. But there are other parts of the world that I would like to see and discover and experience, not just out of my own curiosity, but also for business reasons, right? Because I see, now that I'm here, I see what global business opportunities can look like. And that excites myself and my husband, just to experience that part of life. It's totally, totally different from just being in one country, looking at one thing. In 3 years from now, maybe I'll own something that I might live in, because by that time, I think I might want some stability somewhere. I do not know yet where that is. I'm leaving that open to God. Like I said, I'm living by faith. And I see myself owning more than 1 or 2 properties at that point. I do see myself as well, like, in my own website, focusing more on developing myself and sharing more of who I am with people, which, as you know, is an inspiratrix. I love to inspire people, and I absolutely enjoy being inspired by people. It's like, it's this two-way streak.
Oh, and it's amazing. I get, that's all goosebumps for me. I call them God bumps. That's all God bumps for me.
And that's why I am here on earth. I've realized that about myself. So,
Ditto.
it
Yeah.
and in 5 years from now, I'm not going to say happily retired because I don't believe in retirement. But my biggest prayer is at that point, I'm serving people more. A great example of that would be William Colgate. He, towards the end of his life, probably even before the end of his life, he was living off 10% of his income and giving away 90. And that's really a big part of the vision that I have for myself. Can I live my life like that? That's a question that I always ask God. Can I live off 10%? Living out of 4 suitcases. I know, this is the happiest I've been in a long time. Like I don't need the big house. I don't need the white picket fence. I don't need, the BMW. I'm looking at little tiny toy cars, the smart cars and little things like that. And I'm just, enjoying that and having fun. It's taken me from A to B. It's my thing, my joy. So
Absolutely.
really, yeah,
Love
and
it.
yeah, just growing things and understanding more about global businesses.
So when you did your this really got my attention there is when you asked, and you said you started this 25 years ago, that you wrote out what would I like my life to look like, I think is a much more freeing question than what are my goals, because then it sort of
Yes.
goes into that whole business aspect. I know it does for me, but I really like, it's kind of like you pulled in your imagination. What would I like my life to look like in 25 years?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
But the fact that you spent that time to put it all down. Do you have a whole
Yes.
book?
I have some books. I don't know, not books, pages. I have pages. I have
Amazing.
pages with it. And I do go back just to see where I am. I don't go back often, but for sure once a year I visit it. Just to
Okay.
see what has, because it is a faith walk. I'm not doing my life intentionally like, oh my gosh, in 3 months I'm doing this. I don't live like, faith walk is not like that.
Mm-mm.
God has to lead, guide, provide, and show the way.
Love that. That's beautiful. So one personal habit or your daily routine that continues to contribute to your success is that success journal.
Totally.
So you've already answered that question. That's amazing. Yeah. I think that that's such a great perspective, because people often will write about their days and it isn't necessarily happy. But when you choose to give your brain the exercise of like, what's the best that happened today, not what's the mud.
Exactly. And you know what? I'll add one thing to that, just to maybe put people's mindset also in a more creative space. One of I end with, what is the magic I experienced today?
That's beautiful.
Magic, I'm learning that the magic that I experienced today are just those things that really wow me. Like I had no control over it. It just happened. It gave me such great joy. It was just totally magical. It's such a wonderful thing to go back and read. Doesn't have to be a long list, but every day, you look for the magic in the day.
And giving your brain the extra, that's interesting, because it's giving your brain the right exercise to do, right? Like I did a video a couple of weeks ago. It was just like, when you seek good, you find more good. So if I'm looking for magic, I've given my brain an actual focal point that's going to help me with my journey, my day, and my life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you were to share a story of failure on your journey and what you chose to learn from it, what would you say that would be?
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's so many, but I am choosing.
You're a risk taker then, obviously.
Yes, I am a risk taker. But you know what? I'll tell you something. I like to tell people that I am not university educated. And there was a reason for that. At a defining point in my life, I had to choose between taking care of my grandmother or, improving my education. And I chose grandma over that. And if I had to do it again, I would still choose grandma. But what ended up happening to me is, in the insurance industry, I failed some of my exams. And it was because I was afraid of the exams, because I was told they were so difficult, and the time commit, that was required. And also, I really didn't devote the time to studying for the thing. Let me be clean and honest about it. But what happens in life, and I thought about this some more, is at some point, this is going to catch up to you. I'm not just saying it for that industry, but I think at some point in probably in all aspects of life, get yourself educated in the things that you love and what you're doing. Even if, like for me, that was a temporary thing, but do it. And I found when the trigger point that made me stop, and it's like, Rizal, pick up those books and start studying. I realized that my clients were a bit more educated than I was, and they knew more than I did. Right? Because we come to this point where if you don't educate yourself, you're just not gonna go. I'm not talking about going into school and doing courses. Whatever the education is, learn from books, learn from, a lot of people learn from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best thing that I ever did, because what I found was I now believe that, you know what, I'm going to write this exam and I'm going to pass it. My first hurdle was the first one. And I remember studying very intensely for that. And I aced it. And then I started this 7-year journey of studying, not just the core insurance exams that I had to, but I even went into learning how to read electrocardiograms. So, you can give me the ECG, I could read it for you. And it even took me into learning about anti-fraud, right? I was at one point studying to become a certified fraud examiner. So it just studying just became this big, big, big thing in my life. And I had so much joy around doing it. So I would just say, you know what, no matter where you are, keep learning.
Oh, learning is such a blessing.
Yes.
Wonderful. That's so great. So I just want to say thank you so much for the gift of your presence and your insights and your wisdom. What I always think of when I think of Rizal Furtado is I think she is a powerful woman of faith and love and an uplifter. And now, oh shoot, what's that word? Inspiratrix?
Inspiratrix.
Inspiratrix. Yeah.
And now it might be different with different accents, but that's what it is to me.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, and just such a huge blessing. And please, listeners, listen to this again to get out all of the juiciness that Rizal has shared. It will definitely elevate, amplify, and inspire your life. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So much all for listening, and thank you for your generous heart, and have an incredible day.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And if you like this podcast, please click subscribe below and come and visit us next week, for we will have weekly guests on this show and in between short little video tips of inspiration to carry you through your week. Remember, you are a miracle. Blessings on your day.